The Philosophy of Bullshit, a deep dive into the philosophical concept of bullshit as described by Harry Frankfurt by Isaiah Gren. What is bullshit? As described by the Merriam-Webster dictionary, bullshit is to talk foolishly, boastfully, or idly, or to engage in discursive discussion. Philosophical bullshit. Dictionary definitions are often the result of how a word is interpreted throughout a society. The dictionary definition of bullshit evolved through this process of individuals interpreting the use of the word differently and spreading it. The philosophical definition of bullshit is given from Harry Frankfurt himself. In philosophy, bullshit is speech intended to persuade without regard for truth. Harry Frankfurt, the creator of modern bullshit, born May 29, 1929 as David Bernard Stern in Langhorne, Pennsylvania, he would later change his name to Harry Frankfurt. His career in academia started in 1956 at Ohio State University, where he became a teacher. Then in 1986, he would publish his paper on the concept of bullshit. He would finish his career in 2002 teaching at Princeton. But before that, he would work at SUNY Bing, Rockefeller, Yale, and then Princeton. 2005, Frankfurt publishes his best-selling book On Bullshit as a continuation to his first paper. In 2006, after the unexpected success of this book, he followed up with On Truth. He would die July 16th in Monica, California, 2023. Now, why is bullshit bad? Bullshit undermines democratic engagement, communication, and social cooperation. Civilization is founded on respect for the truth. Bullshit normalizes disregarding that same respect. We observe constantly increasing amounts of bullshit being published or voiced while being given direct credibility. The more bullshit there is, the harder to tell what is sincere. And Frankfurt really thought this one right here, disregarding the respect for the truth, was the most important reason why bullshit was harmful. Lying versus bullshitting. For the liar, a liar is aware of the truth and recognizes its importance, but attempts to keep it away from people. Now, the bullshitter may or may not know the truth. They do not see importance in the difference between truth and falsehood. Primordially, the difference between lying and bullshit gets more complex. A liar deceives their audience twice, giving them one false belief about the state of the subject, misrepresenting facts, and another false belief of the state of the liar's mind, misrepresenting their true beliefs. On the other hand, bullshit is not designed to give their audience an untrue belief on the state of the facts or the subject, since it does not consider the importance of the truth. Accuracy is immaterial to the bullshit. This means a bullshitter only deceives their audience once, by giving the audience a false impression of the bullshitter's mind. Bullshit is intended to shape the audience's view of the speaker instead of their view on the subject. Usually, bullshit is supplemented by pretentiousness. So bullshit's only this, the misrepresenting the true beliefs, not the facts. Why bullshit? A distinct feature of all bullshit is the lack of care for the truth of a matter. A bullshitter does not focus on the truth of their statement. They prioritize the sustainability for their mindfulness. A bullshitter will spew their truth or nonsense to focus on their regard to the audience. This will usually come in the form of pretentiousness. Bullshit will be said to create the appearance of an intellectual or of importance. Simply, the intent behind a bullshitter is to gain some advantage over the audience without the intent to respect the truth of facts. Many bullshitters are people in positions of power who hold much importance in their image. Due to these reasons, they hold consideration for their image in everything they say, leading to lots of bullshit. Modern bullshit. Frankfurt's introduction to his original 1986 analysis of bullshit tells us two main things about modern bullshit. Firstly, he gives us the driving reason that led him to writing his paper, how widespread the phenomenon has quickly become, with his first line stating, "One of the most salient features of our culture is that there's so much bullshit." Secondly, Frankfurt gives us background to why an analysis on bullshit is needed. He explains that due to most people being confident in their ability to recognize and avoid bullshit intuitively, the concept itself has not attracted many questions. This left no clear understanding of what bullshit actually is and the functions behind it. Together, these ideas tell us that bullshitters have become more prominent in society, and the pretentiousness of many people has left us with no theory of the phenomenon itself. Democratic bullshit. The tendency to bullshit is fundamentally encouraged in a democratic society. A democracy fundamentally gives power to the people. Building a strong democratic society requires discourse among its community to create new ideas with the best interest of the people in mind. A strong democracy is held up by an informed public, one that is in active pursuit for political discussion and change. When this generalization of a strong democratic community is superimposed onto an individual, it is easy to conclude the notion that a model citizen should contribute to all political discourse. This notion is inherently false, as a community is made up of many experts and people knowledgeable on certain topics, so that as a whole, the community has an educated input to a large array of subjects through these well-read individuals. A model citizen would therefore have to be an expert that is knowledgeable on all topics to be able to speak wisely on all topics. A problem then arises in democracy as people begin to see it as their responsibility to conform into this false notion of a model citizen. You can't know very much about everything, so these citizens become pretentious, spewing bullshit in an attempt to reach the status of a model citizen. Propaganda. Propaganda is likely the most prominent form of political bullshit in the modern era. Used countless times throughout history to promote political groups and push agendas onto their audience, propaganda amasses supporters to its cause by communicating desired information to its audience, encouraging them to support the source that provided this amenity. The information given by propaganda can be truthful or a falsehood. The only requirement is that it needs to make the source look desirable to the audience. This disregard for their suspected truthfulness fundamentally categorizes propaganda as bullshit. Real-life example of propaganda. Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam is the legendary personification of the United States government created in the early 19th century. Although disputed, many believe Uncle Sam to reference a businessman who supplied soldiers with food in the War of 1812 named Samuel Wilson. This major symbol of patriotism has now come to represent the ideals of American culture in political cartoons and worldwide media. Uncle Sam's most famous appearance was in World War I propaganda posters to recruit soldiers to enlist in the war. That's right here. A little cut off, but it says, "I want you for USA." Nearest recruiting. Real life example of propaganda. Uncle Sam. Now there's a lot of propaganda, but I chose Uncle Sam. That's probably the most recognizable, at least for me. Uncle Sam is the legendary personification of the United States government created in the early 19th century. Although disputed, many believe Uncle Sam to reference a businessman who supplied soldiers with food in the War of 1812 named Samuel Wilson. This major symbol of patriotism has now come to represent the ideals of American culture in political cartoons and worldwide media. Uncle Sam's most famous appearance was in World War I propaganda posters to recruit soldiers to enlist in the war. That's right here. It says, "I want you for U.S. Army," and then nearest recruiting station. This poster falls under the flag-waving category of propaganda, which appeals to viewers through a sense of patriotism. Specifically, the "I want you" poster is instilling a sense that it is the audience's responsibility to enlist in the Army through the ideal patriot or personification of the U.S. government, pointing at the individual and telling them to enlist. Scholarly bullshit. It is often inferred that a bullshitter is rather unintelligent or uneducated. However, analysis from Frankfurt interestingly reveals the contrary. It is found in society that highly educated people are more prone to bullshit because they have access to higher linguistic and intellectual gifts. In an interview, Frankfurt would also say that a lot of people that are highly educated acquire a kind of arrogance that leads them to be negligent of truth and falsity. They have a lot of confidence in their own opinions, producing bullshit. This is basically like they have the ability to say big words that people don't know, so they'll just believe to sound smart. Real life example of bullshit in academia. Jan Hendrik Schoen. Schoen had a really interesting story, and I recommend it. You should watch a video. It's really awesome. Schoen was a famous German physicist who rose to prominence in academia after consistent breakthroughs with semiconductor technology. He had a higher education with a PhD from the University of Constance, where he studied the fields of condensed matter physics and nanotechnology. After his education, he would be hired at Bell Labs, a very highly regarded lab in academia that was founded by Alexander Graham Bell himself. Now, Bell Labs made Nokia, and it's the main lab behind AT&T. His work at Bell Labs led him to be seen as a superstar scientist, as he was publishing prominent papers in prestigious journals like Science and Nature almost once a week. A single paper would be a crowning achievement for most career scientists. However, after his research was closely reviewed, it came to light that he bullshit his way through the scientific process and faked out to show expected outcomes. Basically, he would look at theories made by other people and say he did experiments that would prove the theories, and then when other people tried them, they couldn't recreate them. Schoen later lost. However, after his research was closely reviewed, it came to light that Schoen later lost his PhD, along with the Otto Klung-Weberbank Prize for Physics and the Braunschweig Prize, as well as the Outstanding Young Investigator Award of the Materials Research Society. This controversy would spark worldwide debate over the co-authors' responsibility to closely look through their peers and work for bullshit. Deepities. Deepities are statements with multiple meanings. Usually one meaning is to be seen as wise, thought-provoking, and profound, although unsupported and nonsensical, while the other is to be a much simpler truth. For example, love is just a word can mean that love is in fact the word, spelled L-O-V-E. The statement's second meaning is that the feeling of emotion is not just a word. Deepities are seen very often in bullshit thinking. They are simple statements that any pretentious person can say with ease and attempt to sound more profound. Real-life example of bullshit deepities, Elon Musk. Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla Motorsports as well as the founder of SpaceX, had posted a deepity quote on the site then known as Twitter before he bought it and changed it to X. On July 29th of 2018, Elon stated the following: "Nothing is both real and imaginary." The first meaning of the statement is considered mathematically, as the number 0 is widely accepted to fall in the domain of both real and imaginary numbers. The second meaning behind the statement is that something can fall in both the realm of imagination and reality. This can be interpreted as an awareness to Elon's extravagant life. As he grew up, he could only imagine one day he would be doing what he is currently, which then fell into his realm of reality. Many regard Elon's comment as a way for Elon to bullshit, as such an easy statement that could have been said by any thinker should not fill the perspective that Elon is to be considered a genius. Now here are some questions for you guys. Do you see bullshitting as always harmful? Is it ever ethical to bullshit? And what should be done to prevent bullshit in academia? Here are my sources, page 1 and page 2. Thank you for listening.